In today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracies episodes where we discuss why do patent holders keep dying mysteriously.
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
What the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh? Hello, audience.
Yay!
Listen,
See, I
there's
don't even
something
have
I'd
to
like to
prompt
share with
you.
you
I
guys.
love it. I love it. I wish this was like this from the very beginning.
Good. Hello. I want to share with you now. Let's get serious.
Oh,
This is important.
please, let's just dispense with this part. It's just nonsense. Come on.
Do you remember when I used to ask you to dispense with the part about you bothering me and badgering me to say hello to the audience?
Yeah.
You didn't respond, did you? So what goes around comes around. Now, shush. Let me because you don't respect this, but I'm pretty sure the audience members do. And this one is a real zinger. This is, of course, from Dr. Isaiah Henry Mazatamba. And it says, "The owl that hoots is wise. The owl that stays silent is wiser." Wow. Amazing. It's totally amazing. What are you laughing at now?
Even, are we talking about what? A person that talks? Is this the correlation? I'm trying to get my head around these wise words.
Right. So now
Come
you're
on.
beginning to you're trying to delve into the zen of the words. This is fantastic. Whenever I decided a few shows ago that whenever I introduce one of these things, it does have something to do with the episode.
Okay. And how is this going to correlate with the episode?
Well, you tell the audience member what the episode is, we'll discuss it, and at some point, I will introduce this. Pearl of wisdom.
The suspense is palpable. The audience are on tenterhooks wondering what the heck this is. Anyway, today we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes. And today we're discussing why do patent holders keep dying mysteriously? Didn't even know this was a thing. This is Tayo's topic. So Tayo, because of this topic, I'm going to ask you to sort of explain to our audience why this is a thing.
Well, there's a good YouTube. It is on YouTube as well. There's a channel called the Y Files, and I'm going to send you the link in a second. It is the episode on the Y Files that sparked this topic for me.
And is this the one with the fish?
Yes, the one with the talking fish.
Oh dear. He's got to dispense with that fish. It's just so bad.
I find it hilarious. And if you go through the comments, you find a lot of people love it's hecklefish, it's called. Hecklefish. And it keeps heckling the presenter.
Yes.
And I think it's really hilarious.
He's got a great delivery, by the way. I love his delivery. He's very good.
Yes. So in that episode, we were presented, the audience was passive voice. The show presents the audience with an unnoticed pattern that over the years, a lot of people who have registered patents that, if successful and if brought to fruition, would have revolutionized industry, usually at the expense of oligarchs and power structures that are already in place. It is amazing just how many of them die in unusual circumstances. If you don't want to go the full hog and say in mysterious circumstances, we can just go, well, in unusual circumstances. And then a pattern appears, and that pattern is interesting because it's there. Now, whether, what is it, that old SAW, SAW, about whether correlation is causation. Well, that's that's up to the individual to decide. But I didn't know about it until I watched that episode, and I'm guessing that many of our audience members won't have heard of this either. So the idea here in the show is to present some of the evidence because it's too wide. It's that again, there've been too many deaths for us to even present in a 1 hour show. That's how
many there are.
That's how many there are. So I've had to pick some of the more sort of outstanding or noticeable ones that, and then I'll present some of them.
Okay, well, that's an interesting topic in itself. I'll be honest, because I've not found many examples that are, how can you put it, legitimate. So I'm intrigued to hear what examples you can provide that meet this criteria, that they're patent holders and then they've died mysteriously. So I'm all ears, and I expect our audience are too.
Fair enough. Let's begin with the episode that. Oh, okay, sorry. With the episode that sparked it off, the episode of the Wire Files that sparked it off. So I want to share this with the audience and strongly suggest that audience members have a look at it, because actually, to be honest with you, and Tony and I have never said, we've never pretended to be anything else than a couple of numpties in the Midlands in the UK. We've never pretended to be anything other than that. This guy does better research and knows what the hell he's talking about a lot more than we.
He has a big team behind it. That's a whole production system behind it. It's
we've seen his studios in one of the episodes. We saw his studios.
Yeah,
the multi-room studios. So,
yeah, exactly. It's he's got a number of staff members. It's a properly run business, isn't it? It's a huge business.
Yeah, but that still sounds like an excuse. I mean,
from my masculine, and a couple of other.
I don't care. From my masculine point of view, we never make excuses. Either we do it or we don't. So as a real man, we're not. So we're not.
At least we do something that he doesn't. We go out on location sometimes. So come on.
But he does say, I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler, but it's not really. At the end of the episode, he does say that when he presents mysteries and things, he usually concludes by saying he doesn't believe in it.
Yeah.
But in this particular episode, he says, I strongly recommend that if you have something, some revolutionary idea or whatever, and it's working, he very, very strongly recommends that you do not attempt to patent it. Yeah. Give it to the world for free and make money off your notoriety, your not notoriety, your what is it called? When everybody knows you, your fame. Make money off your fame. And like Bernard, whatever his name was, who invented the internet or whatever he invented.
Oh, what? Berners-Lee.
Yes, exactly. So do it like that. Give it, and then that's fine. But if you try to monetize it by making a patent out of it, you won't live to make money out of it. That's his, and it's very odd for somebody who usually says, there's nothing here. He's found something. Anyway, so with that being the case, here is the link to the show we're talking about, and then we'll get straight into fascinating and perplexing
energy and anti-gravity.
No, that's not the one, is it?
You've sent me something that says killer patents.
And yeah, that's the one. Killer patents. Why did you miss that part?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. This has been going on since the early 20th century. Okay. Early-ish or mid-early-ish. And we'll come back to why, but let's have a look at some of the cases.
Okay.
One is, now I could start from, well, okay, I think I'll do that actually. We'll start from oldest. The one that kickstarts all this, and it's got quite a lot of matter, a lot of content behind it, is the case of Nikola Tesla. Tesla's year of death was 1943. He died alone in a hotel room in New York. His death was attributed to natural causes, but you and I both know that the last thing the last thing conspiracy theories are going to accept is not death by natural causes. I mean,
Well,
no,
there's a
no.
lot of people in Putin's government that have died of natural causes.
I wouldn't
Falling
call
out
falling out.
windows is
I
a
wouldn't call
natural
falling out
cause.
of a window death by natural cause, to be honest.
Is
And
it
they're not in
right?
his. They were not in his government. I know a lot about these people. So no, they were not in his government.
Okay.
They were outside government.
Right.
Yeah, they were past oligarchs. So anyway,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Ex-friends, yes. Indeed.
Yeah, people who decided that the West was more important than Russia
Okay.
haven't made money in Russia. So, and double crossing my main man, President Putin, not a good idea. Anywho, back to Tesla and his groundbreaking ideas.
This is not the car company now. This is Nikola Tesla,
This is
yes.
Nikola Tesla, who was born in what is now Croatia, but in those days was the Austro-Hungary Empire. And he moved when he was about 30 years old. He moved to America, began working for Thomas Edison, eventually went his own way. I think the main quarrel was over DCAC. This is how we transmit electricity.
Yeah.
Tesla felt AC was a better system. Edison, who was famously stubborn and boneheaded, disagreed and thought it was DC, and obviously the two men couldn't work together. So off Tesla went. And yeah, guess who won? Tesla, because we use AC
Do you want
transmission.
to, because you've mentioned AC and DC, do you want to elaborate as to what the differences are? For some people of our listeners out there may not know. What's the difference between DC, which stands for direct current, and AC, which is alternating current?
Yeah, but you've basically said it all. So DC is direct current. It's just a constant push in one direction from point A to point B, with the potentials going across in that direction in one certain direction, and you just keep pushing in that direction, so to
That's
speak.
how
Your
batteries
electron,
work, don't
yeah,
they?
well, yeah,
Yeah.
but Tesla figured out, in my mind, anti-intuitively, that you could alternate the direction
Yeah.
of the
Current.
current. That's the alternating, and
Yeah.
that would be a more efficient way of sending electricity, especially down copper wires and things like that. But yeah, I don't know how I figured that out. Just the same way I told my students last week, a couple of days ago. I don't know how Pythagoras figured out a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Some of these people, you're thinking, how did you think of that? It's very difficult. Yeah. So anyway, anyway, it was two ways, fundamentally, two different ways of transmitting electricity, and we ended up with Tesla's model, alternating current.
Current.
Okay,
In houses, not batteries.
definitely in houses.
Yes.
I meant, yes, I meant across long distances.
Yeah, long distances, and
That's
yeah,
the
it's
clues. It's
easier.
across
Yeah.
long distances. And when he went off, he began working on radio. If you're in those
Yeah.
days, radio wasn't really sort of up and running, and he had investors and whatnot and everything. Unfortunately, from his point of view, he was pipped to it by an Italian, Marconi.
Yeah.
And being Americans don't really do with second best. So once he failed in that, he was feel like on a downward spiral. But he did come up with wireless. He came up with this idea of wireless power technology, where he could beam electrical power across the Atlantic to Europe and eventually to the rest of the world
For free.
for free. Well, excuse me, the transmission would be for free, but the electricity has to come from somewhere. So that is actually not true. It's part of the sort of mistake that people make. He wasn't
Okay.
offering free electricity because somebody had to generate it. He was offering frictionless, seamless transmission of that electricity all across the world. So you
Okay.
don't need cables and things like that. It'd just be a lot easier. Eventually, it would be a lot cheaper, but the power companies will make money.
Because they still have to produce electricity and someone can charge. So you're just saying his his theory or technology was in the distribution
Yes,
of the electricity as opposed to the electricity itself and trying to give it away for free. Okay,
precisely.
so that then, I mean, because it's a conspiracy show
Mm.
and we're saying that the patent holders are ones who are under threat, so to speak. So if this was the case with Nikola Tesla, going
Mm.
by your logic at the start of the show, you said he didn't want to make any money out of it, and he didn't claim that his it was his idea and wanted to patent it, did he?
Oh yeah, he wanted to patent it. He did. I think he did. He was working towards it, and I believe he had filed for. It's filing for the patent that usually causes the problem. once you file for it, and somebody in the patents office decides, hang on a minute, this might actually work. Yeah, bad things tend to happen. So he did. He built the prototype. It unfortunately, I believe it failed on its first couple of attempts, and then speculators pulled out of the project, basically leaving him broke. But he was of the opinion that he was going to be able to complete the work and demonstrate its efficacy at some point. And let's not. Do you remember how this very famous example of Edison and the light bulb?
Yes.
Well, can you tell the audience what you mean?
Well, Edison, he tried to make a filament that would create the light bulb, but he failed 10,000 times.
10,000 times, and
It
this
was a
famous
famous
quote.
quote from an interviewer, which was
Yeah,
brilliant, and I loved his response, where the newspaper guy was trying to pull a fast one on him and said, "How does it feel to having failed, 10,000 times?" And Edison replied quite sweetly, saying, "Well, haven't failed 10,000 times. I've just found 10,000 ways it doesn't work, but I
exactly.
will find a way." And he ultimately succeeded,
And he
didn't he?
ultimate, and this was Tesla's idea that, well, yes, his first prototype at that stage had failed, but that's just one way it didn't work.
Yeah.
But that the fundamental idea was sound, and it was therefore going to work. Now the thing is, he died in his hotel room, like I said, on his own, and we don't know exactly what happened. Apparently, it was natural causes. Who can say? But what happened next is where conspiracy theories is what sparked conspiracy theories and why we're talking about it today. It's
Okay.
not it's not his life up to that point when he died. He died alone. Sorry, but then the FBI rushes in and seizes all his papers and all his research work. Not only that, the FBI is assisted by something called, and I heard of them very recently. I never even heard of them before. Something called the Office of Alien Property Custodian, the OAPC.
Okay. Do you want to define what that alien means?
As the
Because
very first question I asked, huh, Tony, the knife for pseudo is going to be certain to ask me, oh, his ears are going to prick up and it's going to be like, what are we talking about
yeah,
here?
exactly. I've never heard of this
I,
department.
I, I anticipated the question. I too was, you're kidding.
Yeah.
And I went and
Who
I had a
puts
look
that in
at
the
it.
title of a project of an organization? Let's be honest.
The people who put that into the title of an organization are people who are at war, because it turns out that this was during the First World War, was it? This was during the First World War, and the American government was seizing properties and other things that could fall into the hands of enemies that would help the enemy. So they
So
felt that if
alien
there
is
was something
meaning non-American.
non-American, foreign
Right.
power, foreign
Right.
powers, basically.
Okay.
So they were worried that Tesla's work could fall into the hands, that there was in there nuggets, that could help foreign powers gain technological supremacy
Or advantage in some way. So
or
that's why
advantages.
they jumped on. So they weren't. So the conspiracy here is not really anything to do with bumping him off because of those patents. It was more to do with after he died that the technology that which he was creating the patents for wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. So there's nothing sinister here. This is more prudent because if he was technically working in the US, he's now, was he an American citizen?
Yes, by that time he was. He had been.
Okay. So in that case, if he's working on strategic ideas, you don't want that to be handed over to somebody else because obviously his origins were based in Europe. So the European countries of which he originally came from could have legitimately made a claim for his patents if they weren't secured in some way. So I get that. But the point is, patents, if somebody dies, that doesn't mean the patent is free to be used by anyone else. Because normally the current rules are if you successfully have a patent and you're a patent holder, whether you die or not, that patent still belongs to your estate. So your direct inheritance would automatically get that patent if it hasn't been explicitly named in a will. So it doesn't
Sorry,
matter.
wait. If it's what's if there is if Tesla died intestate, which I believe he did because he didn't actually have any
A will.
relatives. He wasn't married or anything. He didn't have any
Okay.
kids or anything.
Next of kin, whoever that may have been,
Mm.
by law would get, there would be, would fall, they would inherit his estate.
Perhaps that was the problem, that the next of
Yes.
kin was
Someone overseas.
Austria-Hungarian
Well,
on the other
exactly.
side.
So this doesn't make it a conspiracy. Do you see what I mean? It just
Mm.
makes it prudent that if somebody's been working on some technology that is deemed valuable to the state, it makes sense for them to take over those patents in some way to ensure that the information that is pertaining to doesn't leave the country. So that's not a conspiracy. That's pretty standard. You would
Mm.
have thought. So I don't have a problem there. It's not something he's been bumped off.
Except,
Oh, go on then.
except, I've sent you a link.
Okay.
Except that in that link, declassified CIA documents suggest that advanced wireless energy systems and this is going to make your ears prick up, anti-gravity devices were more significant than publicly acknowledged.
So what we're saying then, he was more successful in his pursuit of these technologies in bringing them to fruition than we've been led to believe.
In bringing them to fruition, he was closer to bringing them to fruition than we've been
But
led
that
to
still
believe.
doesn't make this a reason to fear putting in a patent because he hasn't been bumped off by the sounds of this. Why would they?
They being the government,
The government, yeah.
want not so much the the wireless energy systems, although there was talk of it. Try to take your mind back to the days when comic books were all in pastels and people believed in ray guns.
Yeah.
So this advanced wireless energy system isn't the more fiduciary, mercantile way that you and I would think about it. Well, you, me, and the audience will think about it in our mercantile, avaricious, modern way about turning everything to money. Just be ooh, money, ooh. This would be the old sort of American way of guns, ray guns. So that's not the sort of thing that you.
Excuse me.
That's it.
My alarm's just gone off.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
That's cool. I'm glad it hasn't gone through. That's the main thing.
So there's that, and then anti-gravity devices. I mean, anyone who's close to an anti-gravity device is looking at some form of military aircraft that might be, well, quite advanced and quite useful
Well, of
in a
course,
war.
of
Well,
course.
there we go.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
actually, they believe that, if you can't break into his, well, maybe you can break into his room and go through his his writings when he's not around. I'm sure a good intelligence service could do that. And if people are and take copies and whatnot, and if people are getting, I think we've actually got enough to complete the work on our own, and we no longer need this man who could any day up sticks and disappear off the horizon somewhere, and who knows what. We don't really need him around because quite a lot of the cases here, things happen when people are very close to reaching somewhere with their inventions, very close to it, or they've gotten to the point just before it's commercialized and industrialized.
Yeah,
that's when they tend to suddenly die. So because I've supplied that link, I think people should have a look at it for themselves.
Well, we'll share it on our blurb, of course.
However, on the flip side, there are those who say, "Oh, this is a load of tosh." That's a better word for you, Tony. Yes.
Yeah, less volatile than your usual language. Yes.
I'm less invested in this. That's why.
Oh, okay.
And here's another link where this is the skeptoids, I think it's called. What's it called again?
Oh, the skeptical people as to whether
this makes use of their material.
Yeah.
And they're saying basically that it's all the conspiracy isn't very
strong,
well put together.
What, in just his case, you mean?
In his case.
Yeah.
And it's about Tesla in particular, Nikola Tesla. It's not really, that important. However, although when I was reading through it and I was going along with it, it does end up with a rather sort of anodyne,
open-ended,
middle of the road sort of way that goes, yeah, but he might have left something worthwhile. Excuse me, you've just invalidated your entire rant. Argument. That doesn't make any sense.
I think they were trying to ensure that there was an element of balance in their statement, in a way.
Then they succeeded because it got me going like, I don't know why you bother, frankly. But I mean, there is interesting.
There's always an element of doubt, even at 1%. So you need to be, if you're going to make a serious grown-up article, you do need to admit to there's a percentage that, even small, that you could be wrong, and normally that could be in the conclusion, where they admit that it sounds implausible he was bumped off. However, there's always a slim chance that he could have been.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, me personally, I'm not convinced that he was bumped off, and only because, and certainly if he was, it had nothing to do with patents. Nothing. Because there are some repercussions regarding patents, because not all patents are allowable. Having been through the exercise myself, there's a whole gambit of things you have to ensure, and you cannot patent certain technologies. You just can't, regardless of your breakthrough. So,
Can you give an example?
Yeah, if it's going to be something weaponized or something where you could cause, let's say, for instance, you come up with a new type of bomb. You cannot patent that. You just can't. So there are certain technologies that are exempt. You cannot do it. Certain boundaries. And when applying for a patent, you have to wait several months while it's reviewed by different bodies as well. Not only other companies that may have something similar already, they are allowed to view it. You have some element of protection as soon as you put your patent forward. However, the reason why it goes towards other companies is if they've already pre-done a patent as well, you could inadvertently have created something which actually is already been requested to be patented before you, which I fell foul to many, many years ago with a patent request of my own. Just to fill you in, bit of information, I put a patent in for a new design of, I won't explain what it was, but it had to go through the relevant patent, and there's different patent levels. You've got your local country patent, you've got at the time European level patent, and then you've got the worldwide patent. And it came back that my patent wasn't totally unique. So there was an element that crossed over another company's patent who were 2 months ahead of me.
Ooh,
I know, just by
just
that
kept to
short
the
amount,
post.
which was a little bit of a. So I would be allowed the patent, but it would only cover the UK and Ireland, and I can't remember exact detail now whether it was Europe, but they had put an application, and because it was ahead of the game, they would have had worldwide patent. So if our paths crossed in terms of where the items would be sold, then they could do copyright infringement effectively in patent infringement against me. So I would be only limited to be totally happy, I would only be limited to the UK market. So I could patent it for the UK and keep them out, but they had Europe and the rest of the world to themselves. And so, yeah, so you can get patents within a patent, so to speak, but then you're locked into certain demographics and locations. So it's far more complicated than we realize. And I only discovered that when I filed for one. Lost a lot of money because you still have to pay, and then the end result may not be what you expect. So,
Well, sorry to hear that you were pipped to the. Well, the way to know whether you were going to make money out of it is to look at the competitor and see if they did make money out of it.
they have, because the
Yikes,
item
that must be
has
really
been
annoying.
the item has been released and it's selling rather well. So there you
Yikes.
go. Yikes! Yes, it is. But there you go. That was a number of years ago. It
Were
is
you
what it is.
distracted by women or something? Is that
No,
what it was?
no. It
No?
wasn't anything to do with that.
Not
It was
that,
just
not that you would actually confess to it on air and recording,
no. Nothing
because
to
we
do with
all
that.
know. We
Something
all
a bit
know,
more
Tony.
mundane, but it was certainly different at the time. So yeah, there you go.
Because Tony, the reason you wouldn't confess to it is that we all know, don't we? You know what I'm going to say now?
No.
We all know that the owl that hoots is
Oh,
wise. But the owl that stays silent is wiser. Get it? Get it?
me. I wasn't expecting you to say that. Oh dear.
Yeah, now you
Any-
get it. Anyway,
No.
even with these patent holders, as we shall see,
Uh-huh.
it would have been wise for them to have stayed silent.
Ugh.
They'd be
You see,
wiser.
the thing is, okay, go back to the topic that we're talking about.
Yes.
In Nikola Tesla's case, I do not believe that he was have been bumped off, because all the military would have done would have said, no, your patent could infringe on something to do with national security. And part of the patent rules means that they have a right to say, all well and good, you can patent it as much as you like, but the product belongs to the US. So it's not, they don't need to bump him off. They just do it because the law actually allows it. So
Yeah.
it isn't a conspiracy, in my opinion. Sorry.
Yeah. There's an off chance that they were worried he would skip the country with the knowledge in his head.
Yes, there's that
off chance.
element. Indeed.
And so you might just want to, you know what, let's just say goodbye to the young man. Oh, it wasn't young at that point. Let's just say goodbye to the man. And that's that. But come see, come
if he was a flight risk, they would have just taken his passport away, so then that would have been simply done. So I
don't know. You could walk into an embassy and you could get a passport and they will take you away because you're going to be very useful to them. So no, that's that. Taking his passport away.
You wouldn't be able to leave the country. You still need a passport to
They'll
leave the
smuggle
country.
you out. It was 1943.
No,
not that difficult. No, seriously.
Well,
I wonder if it was that
but
difficult.
I still, no, I'm
It's
that.
not like trying to get what's his name out of the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Nigel, what was his name?
The WikiLeaks fellow.
Yes,
Wait,
Julian Assange.
yeah, it's not like
Although
where you go.
the case has been dropped now, hasn't it? He's a free man.
Oh, he's a free man now. But I'm saying that would have been different because in this day and age with technology and everything, you have see-through cameras that know where he is,
Yeah,
from his
yeah.
body heat and all that sort of
I
thing.
could get that.
And you can't get him out. Very dodgy, very, very difficult. Anyway, that done. Let's move on to the next gentleman.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be able to go through because look at the time. I'm not going to be able to go through each and every single one. So
No,
let
but
me.
if you can summarize a few and give their key points, and that's certainly worth considering.
This is a man called Dr. Royal. How do you have a first name called Royal? Rife, R-I-F-E. He invented a microscope and a machine he claimed could destroy cancer cells using specific frequencies, which is kind of interesting because in the end, we do end up killing cancer cells using specific
Yeah, that's
frequencies.
right. We do.
So all this is very interesting. He died in 1971.
Okay.
And the conspiracy is that the American Medical Association worked very hard to discredit Rife's research, only that essentially later quite a bit of it was used in exactly the same fashion to cure cancer cells. So is he had some theories about microorganisms. I'm not even sure this is really serious, morphing into different forms, and that challenged germ theory and the conspiracies that led to suppression by the scientific community. It sounds like a load of nonsense. I can't believe anything like that. But his sudden death is considered to be suspicious. He it seems as if it was like it's interpreted by conspiracy theorists as being evidence of a cover-up because, as usual, if you see, this is the problem, Tony. This is where we, as usual, we come back to people interfering with other people's work and stuff. If it's a load of nonsense, yes,
Yep.
why don't you just let it go? Why do you swoop in with the FBI and pick up everything and disappear with it over the horizon? This is the problem.
And again, is there evidence to show that the FBI did come in?
Oh yeah, no, there's not. That is not actually even under debate.
So they came in and swooped in and took away his patent or his technology.
No, all his research materials, everything.
Okay, that's right. But there's
still, and equipment.
Okay, but that doesn't make the fact that they then bump him off.
No. He's bumped off, and then they take everything. It's not they didn't take everything and then bump him off. You bump the man off, and then you take everything. You walk out with everything. Now the point is this: if you don't bump him off because he's talking nonsense, you don't swoop in and take everything. So what for? He's talking nonsense. You don't take his equipment. You just whatever. Hey, he's talking a whole lot of nonsense. Help yourself.
So why?
It's like me. It's like me inventing a flying car. Let me assure you now, it's nonsense. If I die, no one's going to come and take it away because they're going to find a box of matches and they're going to say, oh, and a cardboard model. They're going to say, what's this idiot up to? And they're just going to walk away.
So you're saying, okay, give me a scenario in this case where this doctor, he's a doctor, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's called Dr. Rife.
Okay. So him looking at this technology, finding a way of killing viruses and microorganisms using certain frequency.
Mm-hmm.
What's the interest for the FBI? I could understand if the medical industry were interested in this technology, but why the FBI?
Because we live and we have lived since the 40s. We have lived in an oligarchy. The country is run by powerful interests, a military-industrial complex of which General Eisenhower warned us. So if you are rich and powerful, you pick up the phone and you call someone in the government will do your bidding. This is how it actually works, even today. You don't do it yourself. You send the FBI and whoever. I mean, Trump's. No, that's not. No, I don't want to bring that into it because that's actually a political case. It's not.
So what? Are you saying that the FBI have special people that go off and bump people off? That's what
Yes,
we're alluding to here.
yes, yes. Now, don't come and bump me off just because I've said it. It's actually supposed to, it's actually, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that others are alleging that. How's that? Don't need to kill me now, FBI. I'm saying that others claim that this is what is going on, that people die very suddenly under weird circumstances. And maybe it's not even the FBI. I mean, slight digression. The Boeing whistleblowers. One
Yeah.
even said
Okay.
they're going to
Okay.
bump me off, and
Yeah.
they're going to say
But
it's serious,
okay,
and
we
then
covered that in a show, didn't we?
yeah,
So, but the point is, where the link happens here is where there's actually real examples of this, where you've got you've got other companies, because there's historical precedent for this, where other companies have been done for espionage on their competitors because they're trying to get an edge.
hmm.
So there's, this is what I'm saying. There's clear past evidence of that going on, where you've got a particular interest in someone's patent because it could take your business away. So there's internet, espionage. So I mean, there's an interesting case where Volkswagen and General Motors, there was allegations about that, where they're trying to steal secrets from one another. But that's because they're two different companies, but in the same industry. The same with a situation where Kodak, this was in the 90s, with a guy called Harold Warden, and he was a former employee of Kodak, taking some of their technology and trying to make money from it after he left the company. Again, that's a internal case where you've got someone profiting from a a product that's owned by someone else, but again, they're looking in the same industry. What I'm struggling with is these patent people seem to be bumped off, and all the cases that I saw, it was attributed to the government in some way. If it had been attributed to a competitor that got them bumped off, that would stand more reason to be true. Okay, they've got a lot to lose, so they don't want somebody having a patent affecting their industry. And I dare say this actually could happen if it's similar products. But in the case that we've seen so far, and the ones that I've seen and researched, all seem to point to the government being the ones suppressing the information or getting the person killed, which doesn't make sense. So are the accusers using the government as an easy get out of jail? It's like, well, it's the government that's done it. Whereas in reality, if there are cases like this, it's actually been done by someone who could lose a lot if the patent got into fruition and was actually got investment and come to market. I can understand that, but really, the government doing it for nefarious reasons? Well, why? That's the big question.
Well, to answer your, I think you raised 2 points. I'll start with the latter one, latter one first. Power. Governments do things for the sake of maintaining power and control. Now, earlier you said you gave an example of somebody in Kodak working for Kodak and sort of running out of the door with their secrets. I put it to you that gentleman was, I assume it was a gentleman. That man,
Harold Warden.
I assume that man was not an oligarch. He didn't have the same kind of powers that someone like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or someone like that would have, because he was a nobody and he was treading on important toes. So they just got him arrested and thrown in prison or whatever that happened to him in the end. That would have been, or sued the Jesus out of him. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who can pick up the phone and call someone and say, this gentleman's, this person's work, it could jeopardize American security. This is how you have to sell it. it could, we could lose. I mean, if the patent comes out or whatever it is, the Chinese will get a hold of it, or you just said it to them that if we don't control this, if we don't control this technology, this whatever it is, that our competitors will benefit from it and pip us, technologically speaking. And
And
if
have an
someone
unfair
believes,
advantage. You
eh,
need to do something about
there you
it.
go. You said it to them,
And
and if they believe you, they might not believe you. They might be like you say. You go, yada, and it's go, no, man, that's a commercial thing, nothing to do with us.
yeah.
But if you can sell it, you sell it.
Okay. You've shared a few more bits here. What have you put here? What have you shared with me? Again, our audience, don't feel you'll be left out here. You will get to see these bits of information in the blurb when this show is live.
This is more about Well, his first name was Royal, but it's actually Raymond, and his middle name was Raymond. I think I prefer to call him Raymond. This is about
Yeah,
Dr. Raymond
Raymond
Rife.
Rife rather than Royal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Raymond Rife.
And the first is explains the technology and what it was trying to do and everything. And the second link there is from a popular website, WebMD, which I quite like myself.
Yeah, it's a good site.
It's a good site. And there's an article here which explains that they never did get the originals made, the original machines made, and other people tried to copy based on what they know of the work. They try to create machines like that, but those machines that have been created have not proven to be efficient, and they cost thousands of dollars. And some clinics have been sued or convicted of fraud for using machines like that. So, all in all, don't rush out and go and buy a Rife frequency generator to get rid of cancer if you're unfortunate enough to have cancer. In fact, if you have cancer, look for one of our episodes where we spoke about some woman I think she's dead now, a German scientist who invented
She believed, yeah, a cure for cancer.
a non-invasive
Yeah.
cure for cancer, and she got some good results. So results that I think are quite astonishing, I personally think are quite astonishing. So if you're unfortunate enough to have cancer, or you know someone who's got cancer, look for that. I'll tell you what, I'll actually find the name of the episode before the end of the show, or we'll put it into the blurb. Listen to it. There's an organization and a telephone number in our show that we in the blurb of our show. You can actually call them, and I believe it's free. The treatment is free, so it's not. We're not trying to sell you some magical cure. If you write to the TNT talk show, all this. No, nothing to do with us. We're not selling anything. There's nothing to do with us. I'm not involved in that company. I don't believe Tony is involved in that company.
No.
So neither of us is involved in that company. We don't earn a
We have
penny.
no gain in this
No
whatsoever.
gain whatsoever from it. So just take that up front. That is guaranteed. We don't have anything to do with it. Call the number and see if it helps. And
It just piqued our interest as to what
that's it. And if it helps you, good.
Yeah, if it helps somebody by going there, then yeah, by all means.
Absolutely. What we're saying, on the other hand, is don't go and buy a Rife machine.
No, Rife machine.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Because whatever the original was, it seems to have disappeared and died with him. And the other people who are copying him obviously haven't gotten it right. All right. And when people get desperate, cancer, life, death.
Well, they're talking about this frequency to kill certain organisms and cancer cells as well. They have just only recently managed to improve that technology, and it does seem to work. The only downside of it is it seems to only work with cancer that's fairly close to the top of your skin.
Because you have to drill past other cells and target very specifically not the wavelength, very specific area that you need the cells that need to be destroyed without doing untold damage to other cells. Because if you damage other cells on the way in, they could turn cancerous. You could actually cause as much harm as
it seems to be more targeted. It can't get through, or if it does, it damages
right now.
The way.
Hopefully the technology will come.
Although there was a rumor, I don't know how much there was, they've managed to sort of find the resonant frequency of cancer. So they're saying that they could go deep with the cancer cells themselves and find the resonance frequency of the cancer cells without that affecting cells higher up the level in the body. So imagine you had a system where the cancer was quite deep.
Hmm.
You could create the wave, whatever it is, using the machine outside the body, but it would only make the cancer cells vibrate over or inside the body here, wherever you can see my image here. And so they would be uh, wobbling around at a frequency and kill themselves without surrounding tissue being affected. But that's fledgling early stages, and so we don't know how far that's got. To be fair,
Just looked at the time and I'm shocked.
gosh, we've really gone forward. We still
We've
haven't
got
managed to.
there's a Henry Moray. He
Henry Moore.
developed a device that allegedly harnessed free energy from the environment. He died again suddenly, unexpectedly, and somewhat
Before
mysteriously.
the patent was put through, or after the patent was already
As it was in
patent
the process
holders
of as it was in the process of
getting
registering
the
his patent,
patent.
of getting the patent. Again.
You see, that would make sense that you bump someone off before the patent has been raised, not after.
Hmm.
Because if it's before, then they haven't got a patent. You've just bumped them off because you're trying to get their tech or their idea. But if they've patented it and then they get bumped off, that doesn't seem to work because it's gone through all the checks and balances to give them the patent in the
But
first
the
place.
government is withholding. You know that they've. I should have actually concentrated on this a bit earlier. Sorry about that, audience. You're aware that American, not just American government, the governments across the world, they hold certain patents secret, and you can't unseal them to have a look at them. So
That's
you
right.
you you bump someone off, and then you make the patent secret. Same difference. It's just that you got the full details of what the guy could actually do. You've got everything now, and then you bump the guy off, and then you make his papers and work disappear. That's it. It's gone. And in fact, I don't really want to send people off to say, go and watch this other show, because I think we should say everything in our show. But because we're running out of time, that link to the Y files, he discusses all this. I believe hundreds, if not thousands, of sealed patents that you and I are not allowed to see.
Yeah, but the
No
sealed
one's allowed to see.
patents also are to do with the fact that if you've got technology that gives you an advantage in terms of military technology, etc., they have got a right to seal those because the point of a patent is that people can see it.
Hmm.
Now, if you patent something, you can request for it to be sealed
Mm-hmm.
as long as the rough details can be made available to the people checking the patent. Obviously they need to be able to see it of what you're trying to propose, but once it's done you can ask for it to be sealed because you don't want the ideas or similar ideas to then be copied, because it doesn't have to be exactly like yours. It may work with some modifications. You see what I mean? So if it's too similar, then you wouldn't want it to go into the wrong hands. So if a technology was patented that could be used by the military, they will let the patent owner have raised the patent, but the government will want to seal it and pay them off and say, okay, we'll give you this amount of money. We won't have to bump you off. It seems pointless. You live a life for Riley, because as far as the government's concerned, that's peanuts to them. But the patent holder who's now sold the patent to the government then seals it. That is also a common practice, especially if the technology that has been patented is of interest to them. They will then seal it and then keep it for themselves. So that happens a lot. So there's nothing cloak and dagger about that.
Yeah, I think what you do is sometimes you extrapolate from your belief and you extrapolate into the world instead of going into the world and taking details and then working on those details. So what you've got is this fundamental idea that this isn't how people behave, and this isn't how, because it's just within your own spectrum or your own outlook. And I'm saying that's not how people are. I'm saying that you got to look at the situation and follow the sport, as I like to say. You got to follow the sport, not tell the sport what it is. You just got to follow the sport. Now you're saying that that there's no point in doing this, there's no point doing that. Yeah, specifically, we don't know what the point is. We can't speculate and assign points that we believe in and assign it to other people. What we do is we take the situation and we look at it and go, what possible benefits would those people have from doing this? In the idea of, which one was this chap's problem? Right, was it Rife we're talking about? Who are we discussing now? Sorry, it wasn't
We've done
Rife.
Rife. You were talking about somebody else.
Oh, the free energy thing.
Free
So
energy.
you're talking about the energy companies, those people, the oil, gas, and all kind of people. It's very much like and unfortunately, the mayor. Probably should have started with him, Stanley Mayer.
The water-powered car.
The water-powered car. I remember this. Yes. I remember watching this was it the 70s or the 80s?
90s.
No.
He died in the 90s.
He died in the 90s, but I remember watching it. Something called, I think it was called Tomorrow's World.
Yeah, Tomorrow's World. Yeah.
It was on Tomorrow's World, and I was watching it. And I was waiting for this water-powered car to appear. And it never did. And I was wondering, well, why wouldn't it appear? What's going on? Actually, I missed it. There were two of them. One was the water-powered car, and the other was a carburetor. And the carburetor was, or whatever, would take the place of the carburetor. It extended the mileage that a car could do on one gallon of petrol or whatever, which Americans call gas. And the guy actually went in a car and drove around with someone and proved his case. And then he disappeared, but he died, sorry. And then his work disappeared. And this is the thing, you get back to this same old problem. If it was a load of bunk, why did the work disappear? This is where I'm coming from. I think my entire conspiracy theory rests on that central question, that bunkum does remain out in the world, but this other stuff that disappears is therefore obviously not bunkum. Now, whether that implies that the people were murdered, yeah, that is almost at this point a separate problem. Then some of your arguments come to play. They go, well, why bump him off? I don't get. Offer him a load of money. But now, just thinking about it, as I was saying that, an idea just popped into my head. You offer him a load of money, and then everybody goes, well, he's a billionaire now. Let's take the water power guy. You go after him and say, you know what? Here's $100 million or whatever. Oh, $1 billion, whatever. Here it is. Off you go. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Shut up. Right?
Yeah.
You, me, and Dupree, we're all going to sit down and go, hold on a second. Who gave this guy $1 billion? It's obviously because his device works. Why are we still paying for blooming fuel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're given $1 million, it's NDA. NDA, baby.
Yeah.
Non-disclosure agreement. Take the money and go and live on a beach somewhere.
Missing my point. That's the wrong argument. Well, you and I now know the guy's device works because somebody somewhere, we don't know who, somebody somewhere gave the guy a lot of money. Ergo, his device works. Why is it being suppressed? Do you think the rest of us are going to shut up? The entire country is going to shut up and just go, yeah, whatever. We know there's a device out there that will power my car on water, but I'm not going to ask any more questions. There's going to be riots on the streets. People,
there's not riots on the streets.
There will be riots on the streets.
Why have we not got this technology? Why is it not more
Why don't we have
widely
this
available?
technology? Why did somebody buy? Why is it suppressed? Who does? MPs are going to be forced to ask questions in the House. The House of Lords is going to
let me give you a example of a program I used to watch a few years ago. I think I even mentioned it in one of our shows actually. It was an Italian TV show because I used to go and watch it when I was visiting my late father, bless his soul, when he was alive, and he'd have Italian TV on, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was a show on Italian TV where inventors would come on showing their ideas, and they were basically looking for sponsorship for their ideas. So they had to demonstrate their ideas, and it was a bit like Dragon's Den. You know, Dragon's Den now, or in
Well, I've never
America,
watched it, but
Shark
I get the
Tank
picture.
equivalent, where they come up with ideas and they look for investment. And this guy, I remember seeing him, he came in and he said he's made electricity safe. Okay. Did I
Okay.
remember this?
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, are you asking me, did I remember? Or are you saying you remember?
No, do you remember? We touched
No.
on this during the show. Okay.
That makes electricity safe.
Ago. Yeah, he made electricity completely safe.
Hmm.
And how he demonstrated it was this. He had a fan and it was spinning, and he had a main socket. So he plugged it in and the fan turned on, he unplugged it. So to show the fan was working. Okay. And so he had a big tank of water put in, and he attached his little device, which was his device, onto the end of the plug, and he put his hands, and the guy was going, no, don't do this, don't do this. He goes, no, it's fine, it's safe. And he put his hands in the water with the plug, and he plugged the plug inside the water, so everyone could see the tank and see him plug it in. The fan came on, and then he unplugged it and he plugged it back in. He's still in the water. He got a metal spoon and had the socket in the water submerged with the metal spoon, and he was poking it inside the plug socket. Now, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, do not try this at home because you will be electrocuted.
If you need us to tell you that, you should be watching this show. I mean, we may be a couple of numpties, but come on, man.
I know. And he was doing this, and obviously he was getting a round of applause and whatever. But how the show worked was, after each person did their demonstration, they would put a phone number on the screen and saying, if you like this guy and you're interested in helping or supporting him, here's the number to call, blah, blah, blah. We'll let you know what happens on the follow-up show. And these people just parade their inventions, so to speak. So the following week, I was at my dad's again, and they had the follow-up show. And they said, good news, good news. Enrique, or whatever his name was, has got a sponsor. Someone has offered him €1 million for his invention. And so he's really happy. He said, yes, blah, 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 and great news. And they're all happy that he had this invention. Where is it? Where is it? Why has it not come to market? Why is electricity no longer, it's safe? Why? Now, rumor has it that an electricity company in Italy bought the patent from that guy and paid him off, because they knew that they couldn't then, if that guy got the backing to release it, electricity would be safe. You'd never have an electrician come to your house. You could do it all yourself because it's safe. Think about it. It would affect the building industry because you wouldn't need an electrician. You could wire up your own house. You could put plugs in different places. You could do it all yourself. But now, obviously, with that invention not being allowed, you keep a whole industry still functioning, because in order to put electricity in your house, you have to employ the use of a proper qualified electrician to come and do the work. So maintaining that industry that is there, which is obviously established, you've got electricians everywhere. You've got companies that provide the services. If you found a way that your average Joe public could do their own work, then why would you need all these expensive companies to come in and do the work for you? So you can see the method in the madness. But that patent, he was paid off. He was happy to take the money, gave it up, and the technology is buried.
I've got so many things to say about that, and we're running out of time. So
we are running out of time for sure.
One, water-powered electricity, water-powered cars far more valuable than not having to call an electrician.
Indeed, this was small fry in comparison to this.
Small fry. So yeah, I think a lot more people, myself for example, would be extremely upset. I'm even hearing about it now when they say, well, electricity could be safe. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm kind of feeling meh about it.
Yeah,
it's not something that will get me my blood boiling, but
water-powered car
would. Yeah, and that's number one. Number two, sounds like a load of baloney. You see, electricity works in a certain way. Yes, 1 + 1 = 2. All right, I don't,
Well, he did it. He's made money from
well,
it.
do you know what? I've watched Dynamo, who is a well-known magician here in the UK. I've watched him make a car disappear whilst the car was surrounded by 12 people, 360 degrees. And those 12 people were standing there, and the car was going around and around doing these called wheelies or whatever.
Okay.
And when the dust settled, there was no more car. And we were told that there's absolutely no film trickery involved.
Okay.
Yeah, so magicians are incredible. They come up with all sorts of
Indeed.
And like you said, don't try this at home.
No,
if somebody sold me a gizmo and said I can now jump into my bath and plug it, I really wouldn't jump into my bath and plug anything in. Okay.
All right. So, come on, you need to sum up now. Sum up.
Basically, the thing about all these conspiracies is that one tends to want to poo-poo them.
Yeah.
Until one asks the crucial question, well, if it was such a load of bunk, why was anybody interested in the research? It's like Phil Schneider. He was talking about the Area 51 and all that kind of thing. Okay, but why did he die with why piano then? It's like,
indeed,
why?
It seems a bit weird.
It seems a bit weird.
Yeah. I mean, just to give you my sum up, I've argued against a lot of these, but in reality, I actually think that there's more going on here personally. Just my opinion, of course. I do think that there are nefarious people out there and they do bump off people. I think it does happen because there's many industries out there with too much to lose, and it would affect whole areas of business that's too big an area to be affected. So they would rather bump off an individual. I mean, we covered it in a Boeing show, if you remember. For a company somewhere like Boeing, for instance, we mentioned they're too big to go down. So if it's individuals squealing, then government get involved and possibly tell them not to squeal, if you know what I mean. And the same happens here. If someone has indeed come up with something which is valuable and could be potentially affecting a whole industry, then yeah, they probably would be silenced.
It's more than the whole industry. No, nothing in terms of industry. Think in terms of American supremacy.
Well, of course, everyone wants to keep their advantage.
That's the real thing, and that's why I think sometimes even important patents get through, because whoever is assessing it thinks, no, that's
indeed. Okay, right. If you've loved this episode, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexplained twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tayo, and we are the TNT Talk Show. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.